Bitter and not fun to be around are not descriptions coming from tabloid critics or royal commentators. They are portrayed here as judgments from people who once stood closest to Prince Harry himself. That is what gives the story its emotional weight. According to this narrative, the tragedy is not simply public controversy, but the growing distance between Prince Harry and the family members who once supported him through some of the most defining moments of his life, including the death of Princess Diana. The focus then shifts to Peter Phillips, son of Princess Anne, whose upcoming wedding in the Cotswolds is expected to become one of the major royal social events of the year. Senior royals, including Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, King Charles III, and Queen Camilla, are all expected to attend. Yet the striking detail is that Prince Harry reportedly will not be there, and according to reports, was not invited. The phrase "lost touch," reportedly used in connection with the situation, carries particular significance within royal culture, where direct statements are rare and meaning is often conveyed through understatement. In this framing, those two words symbolize more than physical distance. They suggest relationships that may have quietly broken down over time. Ultimately, the passage presents a portrait of Prince Harry as someone increasingly isolated from the world he once belonged to. The deeper theme is not just royal tension, but the perception that years of public conflict, interviews, memoirs, and personal revelations may have permanently altered how many within his former inner circle now view him. To understand why this situation carries such weight, the focus shifts to who Peter Phillips is within the royal family. Unlike many public figures connected to the monarchy, Peter Phillips has largely lived outside the spotlight. As the son of Princess Anne, he was deliberately raised without a royal title or the pressures of formal royal celebrity, building a reputation instead as a private, grounded, and widely respected member of the extended family. The narrative emphasizes that Peter Phillips has consistently been present during some of the family's most significant moments. He traveled to Balmoral following the death of Princess Diana, stood between Prince William and Prince Harry at Prince Philip's funeral during a period of visible tension, and attended Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding in a spirit of support and goodwill. In this framing, these actions are presented as evidence of someone loyal, measured, and deeply trusted within the family. That is why, according to this interpretation, the reported distance between Peter Phillips and Prince Harry is viewed as especially meaningful. The suggestion is that this was not an impulsive reaction or a temporary disagreement, but a relationship that gradually deteriorated after considerable patience and reflection. The broader argument being made is that Peter Phillips is not an isolated case. Instead, the passage portrays him as part of a wider pattern involving multiple people once close to Prince Harry, including King Charles III, Prince William, former military friends, school friends from Eton, and former royal staff, who are said to have grown increasingly distant over time. The implication is that, for some observers, these repeated fractures have begun to look less like isolated disputes and more like a larger shift in how Prince Harry is perceived by those who once knew him best. The argument being made here is that the breakdown in Prince Harry's relationships can no longer be viewed as isolated incidents. According to this narrative, the people who have reportedly drifted away from him, family members, lifelong friends, former military companions, school friends from Eton, and even former palace staff, did not leave suddenly or carelessly. Instead, they are portrayed as people who remained loyal for years, repeatedly giving him the benefit of the doubt, while hoping the version of Prince Harry they once knew was still present beneath the public conflict. The passage then expands beyond the royal family, citing reporting by Alison Boshoff of the Daily Mail, who documented what the author describes as a similar pattern unfolding within celebrity circles. Names such as Oprah Winfrey, George Clooney, David Beckham, Elton John, Serena Williams, Idris Elba, and members of the cast of Suits are referenced as examples of relationships that critics believe have cooled over time. At the center of this interpretation is the idea that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are seen by critics as unable to recognize their own role in these fractured relationships. The phrase "architects of their own demise" is used to argue that the responsibility lies less with the palace, the press, or outside forces, and more with repeated personal decisions and patterns of behavior. The narrative also references royal biographer Tom Bower, who has argued that Meghan Markle's relationships often appear transactional to her critics, suggesting that people who no longer fit into the next stage of her life are gradually left behind. Within this framing, the provocative question becomes whether Prince Harry himself could eventually face the same fate. Finally, the passage contrasts the couple's departure from royal life with the Hollywood future they were expected to gain in return. At one point, the transition appeared glamorous and full of promise. Celebrity friendships, elite connections, private jets, and global media attention. But according to critics, the shine of that world has gradually faded, leaving behind a growing sense of isolation rather than the triumphant reinvention many originally expected. At one point, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle appeared to embody the ultimate modern celebrity alliance. Royalty merged with Hollywood influence, embraced by some of the world's most famous figures. But according to critics, that vision has steadily unraveled in public view, leaving behind what many now describe as a striking pattern of distancing within elite social circles. The narrative points to figures such as Oprah Winfrey, who once publicly celebrated the couple's union and attended their Windsor wedding, but is now portrayed as keeping a more cautious distance. Commentators claim she remains close enough to observe major developments, yet far enough away to avoid becoming directly tied to the ongoing controversies surrounding the couple. Similar examples are used throughout the argument. George Clooney and Amal Clooney, who famously supported the couple early on, are now described by critics as more closely aligned with King Charles III, Prince William, and Catherine, Princess of Wales. David Beckham, once a strong public supporter of Prince Harry and the Invictus Games, is also portrayed as having shifted his loyalties toward the Waleses after reports of tension and perceived disrespect. The passage continues with references to Elton John, long connected to both princes through his friendship with Princess Diana, and Idris Elba, who DJ'd the Sussex wedding reception. According to this interpretation, both men have remained publicly distant from the couple in recent years. The final point centers on Meghan Markle's entertainment projects under the Netflix partnership. Critics argue that despite having extraordinary access to Hollywood power networks, including connections to figures like Oprah Winfrey and George Clooney, her productions have struggled to attract major celebrity partic. For those critics, that absence is presented as symbolic of a broader cooling within the Hollywood world that was once expected to fully embrace the Sussexes. The argument here is that the Sussexes' growing isolation is no longer limited to royal circles, but extends into Hollywood itself. Critics point to the fact that, despite major industry connections, high-profile backing, and significant production resources, Meghan Markle's projects have struggled to attract consistent A-list participation. The mention of Chrissy Teigen is used to suggest that the level of celebrity involvement fell short of what many expected given the couple's global profile and powerful network. According to this interpretation, the deeper issue is not simply failed friendships or fading alliances, but what critics describe as a repeated unwillingness by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to publicly reflect on why so many relationships appear to have deteriorated over time. The passage argues that, in their critics' view, blame is consistently directed outward, toward the media, the institution, or other individuals, rather than inward. The narrative then turns toward a more personal question. Who is Prince Harry now compared with the man the public once admired so deeply? For years, he was widely regarded as one of the most relatable and beloved members of the royal family. He was seen as warm, humorous, approachable, and emotionally connected to ordinary people in a way few royals managed to achieve. Whether visiting military veterans, hospitals, or public events, many felt he carried both the humanity of Princess Diana and his own natural charisma. Critics argue that the contrast between that earlier version of Prince Harry and his current public image feels stark. They point to his life in Montecito, the ongoing legal battles, repeated criticism of the royal family, and controversies surrounding the Sussex brand as evidence of a dramatic transformation. Former royal staff members, including Grant Harold, have also publicly commented on what they describe as a noticeable change in Harry over the years. Ultimately, the passage frames the story not simply as a royal feud, but as the perceived decline of a once deeply admired public figure, someone many people felt emotionally connected to, and whose transformation has become increasingly difficult for longtime supporters to reconcile. The passage argues that Prince Harry's isolation extends far beyond royal politics. According to this interpretation, he did not only distance himself from the monarchy, but also from longtime friends and deeply personal relationships. People with no titles, influence, or strategic value, who simply cared for him as a person. Critics see that as evidence that the breakdown cannot be explained solely by disagreements over royal life or public pressure. The language then becomes far more dramatic, describing the transformation in Prince Harry since meeting Meghan Markle as so sudden and complete that some observers compare it to a hostage situation. The argument is not presented literally, but as a metaphor meant to capture the belief that Harry no longer sounds or behaves like the man people once knew. Critics point to what they describe as carefully rehearsed public language, heavy with therapy terminology and recurring themes of victimhood, arguing that his public persona now feels scripted rather than natural. Within that framing, Peter Phillips becomes symbolic of people who knew Prince Harry long before royal disputes, interviews, memoirs, or Hollywood deals reshaped his image. The phrase "lost touch" is portrayed as more than polite royal understatement. It becomes, in this narrative, a quiet acknowledgement that the person they once knew no longer feels recognizable. The passage then contrasts Harry's situation with the current standing of the wider royal family. Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, are described as increasingly popular and stable public figures, particularly after Catherine's recent health challenges and return to public duties. King Charles III is portrayed as continuing his role with determination and consistency despite personal and institutional pressures. Against that backdrop, critics frame the Sussex story as the opposite of the royal family's public image. Loud where the monarchy is restrained, commercially driven where the monarchy emphasizes service, and chaotic where the institution projects stability. Even the official wording surrounding Peter Phillips' wedding is interpreted symbolically, mentioning senior royals and family members by name while Prince Harry is simply absent, not formally rejected, but quietly left outside the frame. The passage argues that the royal family has now fully accepted Prince Harry's separation from the institution, and from many of the relationships that once defined his life. According to this interpretation, there is no longer an active effort to repair the divide or hold the door open. The idea is symbolized through Peter Phillips' wedding in the Cotswolds, a major family occasion moving forward without Prince Harry's presence, not through public drama, but through quiet absence. The narrative then shifts into a broader reflection on character and accountability. Critics such as Rob Shuter are referenced as arguing that Prince Harry is no longer simply confused or manipulated, but fully aware of the damage caused by years of public conflict with the royal family. In this framing, the repeated interviews, memoirs, accusations, and legal battles are portrayed not as emotional reactions, but as deliberate choices that critics believe deepen the divide. A major emotional focus of the passage becomes the Sussex children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. The argument suggests that the most serious consequence of the ongoing conflict may not be celebrity fallout or damaged reputations, but the long-term impact on two children growing up separated from much of their royal heritage and extended family. Critics question how those children may one day interpret the fractured relationships surrounding them, and whether they will eventually feel they lost connections they never had the chance to choose for themselves. The passage ultimately presents the situation as reaching a point of permanence. The growing list of strained or broken relationships, including family members, celebrity allies, old friends, and former supporters, is framed not as a series of unrelated events, but as a pattern critics believe is impossible to ignore. According to this interpretation, the debate is shifting away from asking why so many people distance themselves from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and toward asking what repeated behavior may have led so many relationships to end in the same way. The passage concludes by presenting Peter Phillips' wedding as a symbolic turning point in the long-running divide between Prince Harry and the royal family. According to this interpretation, the significance lies not in celebrity fallout or media drama, but in the idea that someone from Harry's own bloodline, someone deeply rooted in the family's private world, has quietly accepted that the relationship may no longer be reparable. Unlike Hollywood connections or public alliances, Peter Phillips is portrayed as representing something irreplaceable: the family and environment Prince Harry was born into. The argument suggests that losing connection to that world carries a different emotional weight, because it cannot simply be replaced by celebrity status, California life, or new social circles in Montecito. The narrative also contrasts Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, with Harry's current position. They are described as figures who continue to strengthen relationships through consistency, loyalty, and public duty, showing up during important moments for family and country alike. In this framing, their expected presence at Peter Phillips' wedding symbolizes stability and continuity within the monarchy. By contrast, Prince Harry's absence is presented as quiet but deeply meaningful. The argument emphasizes that he was not dramatically excluded or publicly condemned. Instead, the distance is portrayed as something that evolved gradually over years of fractured trust, damaged relationships, and emotional separation. The phrase "lost touch" becomes the central symbol of that process, an understated but final acknowledgement of how much has changed. Ultimately, the passage frames the story not simply as a royal feud, but as a broader reflection on loss. The loss of closeness, identity, belonging, and the deeply personal connections that once tied Prince Harry to the royal world he grew up in. The passage ends on a deeply emotional note, asking viewers to reflect on their own relationship with Prince Harry's public journey. It recalls the image of the young prince walking behind the coffin of Princess Diana, a moment that created enormous public sympathy and emotional connection around the world. The question being posed is not simply whether Harry has changed, but when many people began to feel disconnected from the version of him they once admired so strongly. At the center of the reflection is the idea of recognition, whether the public still sees the same warmth, humor, and relatability that once made Prince Harry one of the most beloved members of the royal family. The narrative suggests that, for some observers, years of conflict, public disputes, interviews, memoirs, and fractured relationships have gradually altered that perception. Yet despite the criticism throughout the passage, the conclusion leaves room for uncertainty rather than absolute judgment. It asks whether reconciliation is still possible, whether there remains a path for Prince Harry to reconnect with both the royal family and the wider public that once felt such affection for him. The final message shifts into direct audience engagement, encouraging viewers to share their own thoughts and perspectives. Rather than ending with a definitive conclusion, it frames the story as an ongoing conversation about identity, loyalty, family, and the long-term consequences of choices made in public view.